Hey there, members of the Night Crew, and folks who just love horror. Welcome to the Night Crew podcast, the podcast where we get cozy with the creepy, the frightening, and the just plain undead. I'm your host, Brad Ricks. So we're continuing the series on vampires, and today's episode is the one you've been waiting for. It's time to get tactical. We're talking vampire slaying. That's right, how to kill, destroy, dispatch, banish, exorcise, and otherwise end the unliving nightmare that is the vampire. But hold on. Killing a vampire is not one size fits all. Turns out, depending on where you are in the world, staking a bloodsucker through the heart might work, or might just really piss them off. So, pack your garlic, your holy symbols, and maybe a mirror or two. We're going global. So let's sharpen those stakes. It's time to dive in. We're going to kick things off in Europe, the mothership of vampire mythology. If vampires had a headquarters, it'd be somewhere in the Carpathian Mountains, running a string of B&Bs where you check in and never check out. First off, Romania, the Strigoi, the original neckbiters. Romania, land of Dracula, spooky castles, and very vampire-savvy villagers. Here we meet the Strigoi. These are undead beings who rise from the grave, drink blood, and sometimes attend village festivals because, why not? But how do we kill them? Stake through the heart, wooden, actually preferably hawthorn. You can decapitate the body. You could burn the body to ash. And sometimes, just for good measure, bury the ashes at a crossroads. So they kind of get confused on the way back to the underworld. Now, there are documented cases, like real court records, where villagers dug up bodies and performed these rituals. Imagine being the court stenographer for that trial. So why is the body missing? Well, you see, Judge, a bunch of people died, probably of disease, but I digress, shortly after Bob died. So we did an impromptu cremation and buried his ashes at the corner of 5th and Washington. Way to go, Romania. Moving on over a little bit, in Bulgaria, vampires are just as persistent, but more immune to your garden variety wooden stake. So, your vampire killer's checklist: iron stakes, wood, that's that amateur stuff. Red hot plowshares placed over the chest. Ow. Pouring boiling water in the grave. I guess for when vampires need a hot bath. And decapitation, of course. Bulgarians were serious. They even buried corpses face down or with nails through their skulls. If you ask me, that's not superstition. That's strategy. In Greece, and we talked about this early in an earlier episode, but they have the Rovrikolakis, which sounds like a vampire, acts like a vampire, but sometimes just knocks on your door. If you answer on the first knock, you're dead. So, lesson learned, don't answer any door without at least 3 knocks for good measure. Now, the kill method. Burn it, chop it up, scatter the ashes, maybe sprinkle some holy water while you're at it. Also, Greek vampires can walk during the day. So, sunlight doesn't help you. Now in Ireland, they have the Dairag Dua, which is known as the red bloodsucker. So in Irish mythology, it's a beautiful woman turned vampire after being wronged by men. She rises from her grave to suck their blood, because revenge is a dish best served bloody. Now, the killing tip: you can stack heavy stones on her grave so that she stays in there. Or as a prevention measure, and I'm just going to go out on a limb here, stop wronging women. I know it's a radical concept. Now, if you thought European vampires are scary, welcome to Asia. Here, things get weird. And by weird, I mean like absolutely horrifying stuff. China, they have the Jiangshi. And we talked about this guy earlier as well. It's a reanimated corpse that hops. Yes, the hopping vampire. Y'all remember him. Now he hops towards its victims to suck their chi and that life energy, like a haunted pogo stick with a grudge. And how you can kill it? So with a Taoist talismans on yellow paper stuck to its forehead. I told you, weird. Bell ringing. Yes, bells. Mirrors, chicken blood, or rice. I wish I had a record screech sound effect because, yes, I said rice. Legend says the Jiangshi will stop and count each grain. Now, it's called arithmomania, and supposedly vampires are compulsive counters. Legend says if you spill rice or seeds, the vampire has to count every grain. Basically, you're tricking them with math. Maybe, good luck if you meet a vampire with a calculator. So imagine being a successful Jiangshi, living for 100 years, but then dying because someone dumped sushi rice in front of you and you had the unabashed desire to count each grain. Going to move on over to the Philippines. This is the one that has that wonderful name. The Manananggal. Now, this is one that's a beautiful woman by day. And at night, she detaches her body, grows wings, and flies off to suck unborn babies out of sleeping mothers. Yeah, it's that vampire. So to kill it, find the lower half of the body and sprinkle salt, garlic, or ash on it. She won't be able to reattach and will die at dawn. And bonus, if you cut her wings midair, she crashes like a demonic pinata. Malaysia and Indonesia, they have something very similar. It's called the Penanggalan. Now, it's like I said, it's similar, but this one detaches just the head, which floats around with its internal organs dangling underneath like the creepiest jellyfish ever. Now, this death recipe, thorny vines around windows. Their guts get entangled in it. You can put broken glass at doorways. And if you find their body, stuff it with broken glass or turn it upside down. Without proper reentry, she dies with the sunrise. So if you ever feel paranoid about locking your doors, you know why. Now, India brings us the Vitala. It's a spirit that possesses corpse and animates them. Think zombie puppeteering vampire that likes hanging upside down from trees like a really aggressive bat. So the killing tactic here: recite sacred mantras. Use the right exorcist. Is not just your run-of-the-mill old priest and young priest, but preferably one trained in ancient Hindu rituals. Word of warning here: the Vitala can tell the future, so don't try to sneak up on them. And then our last little trip through Asia, we have Japan. The Nuki Kubu looks like a normal person until night falls, and their head detaches and flies around biting people. Yes, Japan also gave us headless flying vampires. What the hell, Asia? What's with you and flying headless vampires? You need some therapy. Seriously. But how do you kill one? You find the body, you destroy it before the head returns at dawn. By the way, bonus, the head can be caught mid-flight with nets or sacred charms. So it's like Pokemon, but unholy. Shifting continents. In Africa, vampires don't just want your blood, they want your life force, your soul, your vibe. And they're not always undead. They actually can be very much alive. So Ghana, we have the Asen Bosam. This guy hangs in trees, has iron teeth, and attacks you with hooked feet. Think jungle vampire meets horror movie yoga. So how to kill it? You trick it down from the tree and attack while it's grounded. Fire, spears, and community rituals, they tend to be effective. But honestly, your best bet, don't go into the woods alone. Ever. Nigeria, we have the Adzi, which is a vampire that can turn into a firefly. It sounds cute until it drains your blood in your sleep or possesses you. Some countermeasures, you can capture it in a bottle. Because, I mean, sure, why not have this nice little vampire firefly in a bottle? Ritual exorcism with the help from the community priest or a diviner. It does kind of beg the question, do bug zappers work? I mean, probably not, but I do think it'd be fun to try, wouldn't it? In Madagascar, so among the Batsilio people of Madagascar, the Ramanga is a noble vampire who drinks blood and eats nail clippings of royalty. Yep, nail clippings. Killing ritual, clean burial rites, some ancestral blessings, and who knows, maybe a well-guarded nail salon. It's not just about death. It's also about like purity, legacy, and I guess keeping your nail clippings to yourself. Now, we're going to cross the oceans to the Americas, where the vampire myth blends with some colonial fears, native beliefs, and some good old wild creatures. So in Aztec tradition and later Mexican folklore, the Tlaxiquis are female witches who can transform into animals and suck blood, especially from children. So how do you kill these guys? First, salt and lime. Take that, tequila. Some holy water. Identifying and confronting them during the day. Now, these vampires can be part of your community, like the friendly abuelita by day, who's a terrifying blood witch by night. Trust no one. So Brazil, we have the lobisomem. This is a vampire werewolf hybrid because, sure, why settle for one monster when you can have two? Kill methods, silver bullets. Yay, silver. Prayers and rituals. And public shame. Sometimes these legends were more morality tales about adultery and social misbehavior. So shaming worked. The Caribbean, we have the Lugaru. So that's kind of more from like Haiti and Trinidad. But it's a woman who sheds her skin at night and turns into a ball of fire to fly through keyholes and suck blood. Now to kill it, you can find and destroy her hidden skin. Without it, she burns at dawn. Or you can distract her by scattering rice. No, it's like again with the rice thing. But she'll have to count each grain before attacking. Seriously, vampires are weirdly obsessive about grains. In Mapuche culture, the Pechuan is a shape-shifting vampire snake that hypnotizes victims before sucking their blood. your typical nightmare, a vampire snake. Death tips, religious rites, and an indigenous shamans known as Machi, or are the Putin's, I think their greatest threat. Also, carry a flashlight. Supposedly they hate light. Now, let's shift over to where it's cold. So, we're going to talk about some Inuit myth. So, the Igi Rock and the Kalupalik. Now, these aren't vampires in the traditional blood-sucking sense, but they do kidnap children, lure travelers to their doom, and sometimes drain their assets. Defensive advice? So, strong naming ceremonies for children because names give power. And you can avoid wandering into fog or near sea ice alone, which in the Arctic, I don't plan on doing that anyway. So, a fun fact, vampires in cold regions are less about blood and more about like soul theft. The horror is really tailored to the environment. Now, let's move to the present and let's talk about where vampires hang out in high schools and sparkle in the sun like disco balls. Yep, I'm talking about Hollywood vampires. Now, thanks to the movies, we've added some new rules and kind of killed off some old ones. So, garlic? Sometimes. Holy water? Also sometimes. Sunlight? It's typically lethal unless you're Edward Cullen or in my vampire series, The Night Crew. Silver is also great against werewolves, but that's a series for another time. But some crossovers do apply here as well. Now, keep in mind, modern vampires are customizable. Want to make your own lore? Go ahead. Just be consistent. Nothing ruins a vampire story faster than a sparkly immortal who gets taken down by like a vitamin D deficiency. I crafted some of my own lore in the Night Crew series. Vampires can be killed by a stake to the heart or by chopping their head off. Sunlight doesn't kill them, it just makes them weaker. Silver can also hurt and kill them. Garlic is a repellent because their sensors are so strong, the smell is too overwhelming. And those are kind of the main rules I follow with my vampires. Now, pop culture gave us a handful of some vampires as well. So we got those Buffy style vampires, which are quippy and very flammable. Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles, it was more philosophical drama queens. Twilight's Edward, he sparkles. I ain't going to comment anymore on that. Blade is the vampire who kills vampires. And Castlevania's Dracula kind of gives off some angry dad vibes. Each of these added something new to the myth, and each has a weakness. But the best pop culture truth? A vampire's power depends on the story you believe in. Now, let's do a quick roundup of your international vampire survival kit. A wooden stake, Hawthorne preferred. An iron stake for those Bulgarian models. Garlic, because it can be multi-purpose and tasty in a pinch. Salt and rice for those OCD vampires. There were mirrors and bells. Chicken blood. Sorry, vegans. Holy water, which is optional. Machete for those decapitations. And really fire, because when in doubt, burn it. So why do so many cultures have vampire myths? Well, really, I came up with kind of two reasons. So blame disease, so things like tuberculosis, rabies, and plague all contributed to vampire panic. And then social control. Many vampire female myths were designed to police women's behavior. So, misogyny bites harder than Dracula. In essence, vampires are just metaphors with fangs, and each culture kills them according to what they fear or value most. So So let's wrap with practical tips. How to vampire-proof your existence. Never invite strangers into your home after dark. Hang garlic near windows and mirrors by the door. Sprinkle salt lines across entryways. Keep a small pouch of rice on your person, just in case. And know your local legends. If you're in the Philippines, learn what a Manananggal looks like. If you're in Ireland, check for restless graves. Vampires are creatures of story, but stories have power. Behind every vampire myth is a story about death, fear, community, and the unknown. Whether it's a tale told to keep children safe at night, or a metaphor for disease, trauma, or outsiders, vampire lore reflects what a culture values and what it fears most. And the methods of killing these creatures, they're creative, brutal, and honestly, kind of brilliant. So, next time you hear a bump in the night, or someone knocks once at your door, maybe don't answer. Or do, but keep a mirror, some rice, and a steak handy, just in case. That's it for the Night Crew podcast. If you laughed, learned, or otherwise enjoyed our tour of vampire extermination techniques, make sure to follow the show, share it with a friend, and leave a rating. Hopefully 5 stars. If you want updates on my writing, you can follow me on Facebook or TikTok at Brad Ricks Author. You can find copies of my novels wherever you like to buy books. But if you hop over to my website, bradricks.com, you can purchase signed copies of any of my novels. While there, also sign up for my newsletter. Remember, The Night Crew Book 1 is currently available, and Book 2 comes out in November. I'm Brad Ricks, reminding you to stay out of graveyards after dark, question people who don't show up in mirrors, and always throw some rice at your friends. If they compulsively count every grain, they might just be an undead bloodsucker. Until next time, keep your curtains drawn, your sense of humor sharp, and your blood inside your body. Thanks for listening.